Fred Banting and the Dury quarries, September 2nd, 1918, Part 2. I strongly suggest that you watch Part 1, which will be in this playlist. This is a presentation by Michel Gravel. We've seen this photo in Part 1. It was pointed out to me by François Lepoint, who lives nearby. This is the German aid post that we've already identified. This is a photo from the 44th Canadian Infantry Battalion official history. It's taken shortly after the battle, I presume. We can see the roof is caved in. The question I posed in part 1 is this German aid post really the one Banting used? And with this video, we're going to answer that question. First, a couple of slides showing pictures of Fred Banting. This is him in his uniform in 1918 as Captain Banting. This is Dr. Banting during World War II as a major. The smoking gun that proves that the German aid station was in fact the one appropriated, that Dr. Banting appropriated for his own use on September 2nd, 1918, comes from his war diary. This was provided to me by Banting House, a National Historic Site in London, Ontario. This is a short extract from Banting's war diary. So in Fred Banting's own words, "The barrage was terrific on both sides. I went over the top with the battalion. We passed through heavy shell fire and a gas valley. I dressed a few in a sunken road west of Dury, then went on to Dury. By this time, the battalion was out of sight. Sniping and shells prevented further progress, so I returned to the southwest corner of Dury to the quarries and established a regimental aid post in a Hun dressing station using their dressings and Red Cross flag. The wounded poured in, and I kept 18 stretcher bearers and 20 to 30 Huns carrying out. A couple of nice heinies worked around all day. One said in French, 'La guerre est finie pour moi,' the war is over for me. From about 11 a.m. till 10 p.m. I got a little sleep during the night, but had to wear a gas mask for about 4 hours. So here's the conclusive proof that the photo of the German dressing station in the 44th Battalion Canadian Battalion official history is in fact the aid station operated by Dr. Banting on September 2nd, 1918. Before we revisit the quarry, I'd like to show you the sunken road where Fred Banting treated his first patients on September 2nd, 1918. This map here is taken out of the 44th Canadian Infantry Battalion official history. You can see on the left Haucourt, which was, they jumped off in front of Haucourt. You can see the arrow showing the line of advance of the 44th Battalion south of Viterpigny towards north of Dury. So there's the sunken road. It's in red. It leaves Viterpigny and goes straight south for about 550 meters. This is the only sunken road on the way. So this must be where Banting met his first patients. Let me zoom in. And you can see clearly the line of advance of the 44th Battalion between the two sets of arrows. And there's the sunken road. It's approximate length to scale on this drawing. Here's a Google Earth view of Viterpigny and the sunken road. The sunken road is here. And if we visit the site, this is what you'll see. This is the sunken road. It's 550 meters, so I don't know where Banting was exactly when he treated his patients, but this looks like the deepest part of the sunken road. So I got a little fantasy of maybe trying to get the Viterpigny Town Hall or Town Council to rename this Banting Way, as there's no name on this road at present. Now we're going back to visit the quarries at Dury, and you might recognize this trench map from 1918. In the red square, and the arrow is pointing to it, is Dr. Banting's aid station. On the right of the road, or the east side, there's a complex of quarries that seem to still exist, but they're all overgrown with trees. And on the west side, there was also a deep quarry just north of the aid station. And it seems to have been filled in, because if we look at Google Earth, the spot right here is where the quarry, that portion of the quarry complex used to be, and it's now at ground level. So now it's time to revisit one of the photos of the quarries that I got in Germany that I presented into part one. If you noticed on the horizon, there's a building, and my friends in France thought for sure this was Dr. Banting's aid station. Certainly the shutters are very similar, except I was a little skeptical because if I zoom in, you can see there's 3 windows. So if it's the same house, it's clearly not the same elevation. So the photos were taken at different angles, but where? So on the right, there were some buildings that I thought I recognized from the first picture. So why don't we pull that up? This is the first picture we're now familiar with. You can see the shutters are very similar to the shutters on the building in the picture in the quarries, but there's only 2. On the left, there's some utility buildings here that are identical to the ones that are in the quarry photograph. So this proves that this picture was taken from the south, looking at the southern elevation of Dr. Banting's aid station. And this photo is taken from a point north in the quarry, looking south towards Dr. Banting's aid station, and the building is revealing its northern elevation. So this is in fact the right building. This is what it looks like now if you were to travel to France to go see it. On the right, you can see this is where the quarry used to be. It's obviously now been filled in. And on the left is the quarry on the east side of the road, which has not been filled in, but is now overgrown with trees. So I gave you a lot of cardinal directions there, so I might have confused you. So let's just review. This is Dr. Banting's aid station. This is the quarry to the north of the aid station that's been filled in. And the photograph of the quarry that I have is taken in that spot. So this is now ground level. It's an open field. And the photographer would have been standing where this arrow is to take that picture back in 1917, whenever that picture was taken. So what does the aid station look like now? You can't reproduce this photo exactly because there's some houses that have been built near the aid station, but this is a view of the southern elevation of the Banting aid station. You can notice the windows are gone now, but it's definitely the same building. And this photograph, I can't really right now get an exact recreation of the picture because we don't have access to the property. But this is what the building looks like now in 2023. And even the little lean-to is still there. This is the front of Dr. Banting's aid station. This is the only elevation of the building we don't have a picture of, but this is what it looks like if you were to drive by today. That's it for part 2. Dr. Banting's aid station of September 2nd, 1918 has been definitively identified. I'd like to take a moment to thank the Banting House National Historic Site in London, Ontario. This is it here in the picture, for all the help that they've given me and support for this little project of mine. So thank you very much for your attention.